Welcome to the BMW M3 Competition Touring. And this is an estate. So yes, this is the latest version of BMW's M3 in touring specification. It has 510 horsepower and 650 Newton meters of torque, and it has an all-wheel drive system badged as xDrive, which can, and this is the most interesting thing about this car, be switched to rear-wheel drive if you want it to be. And yet it's an estate. Madness. So you'll probably be familiar with the basics of this car. I'll run through them as quickly as I can. Basically, we've got a 6-cylinder turbocharged engine up front, which is a spectacular unit, really. It's gravelly and it's gruff, and it's very, very quick indeed. And it's paired to an 8-speed auto gearbox, which is controlled by these lovely carbon fiber shift paddles here, which are pretty nice, especially for a German car. I mean, the Italians make them nice. This time BMW said, we're gonna make them nice too. Then we have that all-wheel drive system. Drive is sent to the front and the rear in normal mode, but if I click a button, which I will do in a moment, it all gets chucked to the rear wheels, which, if you hadn't noticed, don't have much weight over them compared to what's up front because, well, it's a vacant estate boot. And we also, of course, have adaptive M suspension. It can be adjusted through several modes. It can be comfortable, and even on these 20-inch rims, it is pretty comfortable, or it can be much firmer and much more track focused. Though, of course, this is a 1.8-ton car. Who's really taking a touring on track? And it really is a serious machine. I mean, I can't tell the difference between this and the saloon version from where I'm sitting right now. I mean, it will crack 62 miles per hour in 3.5 seconds. It will go as fast as you need it to, top speed-wise. I mean, it's an Autobahn blitzer if you need it to be. But in the UK, what matters is how it handles our roads, our bumpy British B roads. And well, we're on one just now, and I can tell you it rides very well indeed. And I can steer through this roundabout, and it doesn't even roll around that much. The car is really nice, loads and loads of grip, but it just soaks up these bumps really, really well. Now the cool thing about this car is you've got your M modes accessible on the steering wheel. You've got an M1 and an M2 button, and that means you can save your preferences within the adjustability menus, whether it's you want a softer suspension but a more aggressive gearbox change and you want a more aggressive engine reaction. Well, you can do that and save it as 2 modes. Now I've set it to be a bit more compliant for the UK, so it soaks up these bumps really nicely. But yeah, I've got the engine and the gearbox in their quickest, most reactive modes. And the result of that is a car that is sublime on our roads. It does feel its weight a little bit over crests, and you do get a bit of a wobble from the rear of the car in particular, I've noticed in this touring, just a little bit, but it just takes a second for the damping to get it back down and under control. And actually, crucially and most importantly, all of that power and all of that torque is always under control in the all-wheel drive mode. It feels adjustable through a corner, but your traction is excellent. We are treated to some sunshine today, so I must admit, it's not the trickiest of conditions to test that stuff, but I can just feel the traction, the grip, and the delivery of power is really lovely. I love the snarls as well on the upshift. You hear it from the exhaust. It's a little clearing of the throat from the exhaust out back to go with that silky, gravelly tone from the 6-cylinder up ahead. Now this car has over 7,000 pounds worth of carbon ceramic brakes on it, so it stops well like this. Oh my God. Oh, that's pretty good. And then with all-wheel drive, it gets going like this. Yeah, I mean, this is a monstrous machine in a straight line. But what about around bends? Well, let's see around this corner here. I'll get it back down into 3rd gear. Lovely grip. Oh, yes, that is lovely. The traction is unreal. Wow. Wow, mid-corner traction is spectacular. God, the way it just soaks up these bumps is tremendous. It really is. Such a great package. It feels so cohesive as well. The way the engine is reactive and yet the chassis is forgiving. You'd think that would feel a little bit unmatched, but no, it seems to just allow the car to flow over these sections of road. And it means you can use that engine and the power much more effectively and much more consistently. Let's see what it feels like now in 2-wheel drive mode. Now we have decoupled the front axle and all the power is going to the rear. That is a lot of muscle to the rear axle. 510 horsepower, remember, and 650 Newton meters of torque. Now, it doesn't feel any different on a straight road. Of course it wouldn't. What does it feel like around a bend? Bit of power. Oh yeah. That's brilliant. So easy to do. Just a little bit of throttle, nice bit of kick and movement. Lovely, lovely. Now I must admit, it does feel quite heavy in those moments. You do feel the rear just start to lean over a little bit, although I did have it admittedly in comfort suspension mode, which I need for this surface here. But yet, because the front of the car is still nice and stuck to the ground, even though the power is being delivered entirely to the rear, the front still does have a real kind of pulling effect on the car. And so you still feel lovely and in control while the back of the car is a little bit lighter on its toes, shall we say. Do you know another feature I really like in this car is its adjustable traction control, and it's very, very useful, especially when you've got it in that rear wheel drive setting. You can cycle through several modes. I mean, if you scroll all the way up, let's do it now. You've got 10 adjustable modes. Now, that kind of stuff was only the sort of stuff you saw either in a racing car, a proper GT3 racing car, or maybe on Gran Turismo on the PlayStation. You never saw it in real road cars. It was pretty much on or off, or maybe on sport and off. This has 10 modes for traction control. Other cars that have that are not just average cars. It's things like the mercedes-amg GTR, for example, you know, the big, powerful supercar with a whacking great wing on the back of it. This is an estate with a massive boot. And you might say, well, it should be, given that this car starts at 80 grand, and as it sits here with all this kit on it and those very effective but very expensive carbon ceramic brakes, well, it's 100 grand. I think 103 for as it sits here. So this is a 6-figure vehicle, which you might think, well, that's a lot of money for what is basically a mid-size saloon in estate spec. But, well, nowadays, this is a lot of car. It's not just an estate with a powerful engine. This is way more than that. It's got motorsport technology in it. It's got handling that defies physics and logic. And it's got an engine that can be both efficient and comfortable and calm, or a bit of a brutish monster if you want it to be. And how long are we going to have cars like this for? I mean, everything's going electric, and maybe the next one will be a bit hybridized. So right now, this feels like a butch, burly, and very capable, but dare I say it, a little bit old school machine in this class. I mean, everyone buys SUVs nowadays if you want a big boost. So if you buy an estate, as far as I'm concerned, you're a bit of a hero. But I'm not suggesting you'd be the type of hero that would compromise on comfort. No, not at all, especially when you look at the interior while parked, because this thing is lovely. I mean, the cabin of this car feels every bit the money this car costs, not least because there's carbon fiber everywhere. I mean, there's a carbon all across the center and the top here, and then you've got these really lovely leathers, and then the digital instrument clusters up here, the infotainment screen and the instrument cluster, which, yeah, okay, it looks a lot like the Mercedes system from afar, but when you start it up and you look at the graphics, it feels really BMW M. It's great. Lots of tech in there, very easy to use, and you can still handily, if you don't like pressing the actual screen, you can use your eye rotary controller down here, which is very useful when you're on a bumpy road like the one just beside us here. And it's a nice place to sit, it's comfortable, you can get very low. So despite this being a long car, I feel totally part of the package. I'm with the steering wheel here and I'm in this really snug and comfortable seat, peering over that muscular bonnet. It feels very sports car-like. And there are a few key features that do make it feel especially performance focused, not least the M badge here, and then all these carbon fiber bits up here. The steering wheel's still a bit thick for my liking. That's classic BMW M these days, but you do at least get a thinner pallet here. And you can also inflate the lateral support on the seats so they can squeeze you a little bit tighter, or loosen them off if you're feeling a little bit wider after a lunch. It's a lovely place to be. And the rear isn't too shabby either. Firstly, good space, amazing amounts of headroom up here. I mean, it's more than you get in most SUVs because you've got that completely straight roofline. So I've got tons of space. And then you've got good leg and knee room as well. These carbon back seats, firstly, they look really cool. But secondly, because they're quite thin, there's so much knee room and I can tuck my toes under the seat ahead of me, even though that's nice and low. And look what else you can do. You can poke the driver ahead and really annoy them. You don't get that in many other cars, do you? Seats are lovely. They've got the Napa leather in this car, and we've got controls here as well for your heating. So you've got all the ergonomics and all of the functionality you need. And of course, if you don't have a middle passenger, you've got this space here and you can press that and put your cups away as well. Now, the boot space itself with the rear seats up isn't that much bigger than the standard saloon. It's 500 litres, just 20 more than the saloon, but crucially, you can do this and open it up. So you basically have the space of a quite narrow and low, but still very long van. It's great space. It means you can throw, for example, a bicycle in the back. Your suitcases are going to go in there, no problems whatsoever. That really is a unique feature. And don't forget, with that flat roofline, it'll be very easy to put a bicycle on the top as well, or your roof box. This is a very usable car indeed. All right, so at 100K, this is a lot of car, but well, it is a lot of car, literally speaking. There is motorsport technology in there. We've got Nürburgring developed hardware in the chassis, and then of course, it's a touring, so it's got lots of practicality. And yeah, I nearly forgot, it's very comfortable as well, which means British B roads are of no issue whatsoever. I think this is one of the most impressive cars out there from any class. And yeah, okay, everyone's buying SUVs these days, but well, these are just cooler, aren't they? What do you think? I think the grills, yeah, still quite divisive, but the rear of this car, unquestionably one of the best out there. Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to click the like button and of course, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We'll be back very soon with more cars on the road. And of course, we've got a lot coming at Rockingham. See ya.